Uh, okay. So Nepal Forum of Science Journalists has conducted different activities. Last year we conducted boot camp. Uh, Journalists from Nepal, India, and Pakistan participated in the boot camp. This year also we are planning to conduct boot camp. I think maybe in September. Otherwise, it could be in April 2024. This time we are planning to bring some journalists from Pakistan as well. Uh, Last time, due to some financial constraint, we could not make it possible. This year, we are making this boot camp more regional. From the SAR countries. Then we have collaboration with NAST, UNESCO, ICIMO to promote science journalism in Nepal and enhancing the capacity of science journalists. This is the this is a picture of Himalayan Climate Bootcamp 2022. You can see Mount Everest in the background. This is Sagarmatha National Park, Namche. Namche is known as the gateway to Mount Everest. It is about 3,000, 3,200 meter. Then last year, we reached up to 4,000 meter of Everest region. This year, we are planning to conduct boot camp in the Everest base camp. It is 5,060 meter. Last time we make 7 days boot camp, 7 days, 1 week. If we go to Everest base camp, it will take 2 weeks, 15 days. Then, if we, before conducting the boot camp, we will make announcement in social media, in our website as well. It could be chance for journalists from the South Asia region. So this is part of science writing. We went to Everest region. We interacted with local people, local, business person, some farmers, and we produce 23 stories. Impact of climate change in the Himalayas. Those stories were related to permafrost, tree line shifting, melting glaciers, glacial lake, impact of climate change on agriculture, tourism, and many more issues. And our scientific articles were published in Scientific American, On Dark Magazine, Mangabe, Thoughtful, Gabi, and Women's Media Center, Xylem, and many more international as well as national media outlet. That's why this program was conducted with the support of all Federation of Science Journalists, and we submitted our reports. All Federation, the board members or jury of all Federation of Science Journalists, they are also they are happy because we make this our program as a part of grand success. So uh, I think it could be interesting for the science writer, science journalists from Asia, maybe from South Asia, from the global, any countries from the global, uh, global, you know, uh, any countries from the global. So next one. You can start your writing in the national newspaper, national online multimedia platform. Then you can try for international media outlets because you have a strong command in language, means English. If you have command in English, you can start your writing. You can pitch your idea to Nature, New Scientist, National Geographic, Scientific American, BBC News, then Third Pole. Hot Pole basically focus on climate change, environment, and Mangabe also environmental portal. It covers various issues of environment, biodiversity, wildlife, climate change, and many more issues. SciDev.net. Rest of all, it generally focus on technology. These outlet might be useful for you to pitch your ideas. Um so you can start. Then, if you follow Craft of Science Writing book, there are many articles regarding how to pitch your idea for the international editors. That could be helpful for you. I have mentioned some challenges of science journalism, science writing in our region. There is gap between researcher and science journalists. Even science journalists, they don't get uh, sufficient information from the scientific community. As I mentioned, scientists, researcher, they are not, they are not, uh, you know, uh, they are not always, they are not always um, access their information, their manuscript, scientific findings to journalists. Um, as I mentioned earlier, they blame that science writers, science journalists, they don't understand their, core values of research. They sometimes they distort their uh, essence of their findings. That's why it is great, problems, challenges for science journalists, science writer in Nepal. I think this problem might be in, Pakistan, other countries of South Asia. Then we have limited resources. Science is not always a major focus on journalism in mainstream media. In Nepal, most of the mainstream media, they focus on politics, crime, economic journalism, because they can, get some money, some revenue, advertisement from there. To become science journalist, it is a kind of passion. Without passion, it is impossible to work as a science journalist, science writing. That's why it is very difficult. In Nepal Forum of Science Journalists, we have more than 40 science journalists and science writers. Then we are conducting different, programs, different training seminars, and so we are facing some challenges how to, engage science journalists. Yeah, it is great challenge because we don't have sufficient opportunities for science journalists. That's why it is due to lack of due to lack of sufficient resources. Journalists are they are facing some challenges. Then other thing, language barriers. In Nepal, our first language is Nepali, native language. Then most of the journalists they don't understand English. In case of scientific papers, scientific research, most of the scientific manuscript they are in English language. They don't understand properly. So as a result, some journalists they are writing articles in Nepali language. They translate from English. Then that article, you know, uh, could not be, accurate in the original one. So then journalists have, lack of interest. What is in Pakistan, I cannot say. In Nepal, most of the journalists they don't want to, start career in science journalism because it is a kind of passion. It takes time. to piece in the international media, it is not easier one. It takes time. If you piece 5, 6 stories, then only one story will be accepted by the international editor. There will be some challenges. Without passion, one could not be science journalist. Then nowadays, it is very difficult. There is infodemic. After COVID, there is infodemic, not pandemic. Infodemic means there is, uh, overloaded information. That information could not be accurate, appropriate. So nowadays, everywhere there is infodemic. It is, challenge for journalists combating with misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. For this, journalists should follow scientific articles, interaction with scientists. That's why it is challenges for them. Then we don't have, sufficient exposure for the journalists. We don't have sufficient training. That's why what we are doing, we are collaborating with some organizations from USA, some organizations from UK. Recently, we conducted 6 month science journalism mentorship programs in collaboration with Open Notebook. In future also, we are planning to collaborate with British science writer. So I think what we are doing in Nepal could be interesting for you know uh, to start in Pakistan as well, because we don't have sufficient resources in the beginning. We can just conduct online courses for the uh, science journalists. That could be interesting to start science writing, uh, which is based on scientific research, scientific papers. So it could be interesting for uh, science journalists from Pakistan as well. I think from today's my sharing, um the way forward, I have mentioned some points. Uh, what we have started in Nepal, meet the scientist. It is simple program. Once a month, we meet with our members of Nepal for our science journalists. We meet with scientists and we'll chat with a cup of tea with scientists. Just informal program. One time, only one scientist. He or she will share their research findings. There will be 10, 15 journalists. I think it could be good way because there will be personal relationship as well. Then it helps to get to uh, to narrow the gap between researcher, scientific community, and journalist. So another thing, most of the science journalists, they don't have access to well-known academic journals. For uh, peer review journal, we have to pay money. Without payment, we don't get access. So uh, this is also another issues for science writers, science communicators. Then interaction between science journalists, researchers, scientists should be intensified. It makes science writing fruitful, and there should be there would not be wider gap between scientific community and science writer. Then I think in case of Asia, South Asia, if there are some exchange among the scientists, among the science journalists, it could be very useful to share their ideas, share their thoughts, uh, share their findings. It could be interesting as well as useful for the journalists of each country, like Nepal, Pakistan, and other countries also. So finally, this is picture of Mount Everest. You can see it was taken in 2019 before COVID. You see this is how climbers are climbing the Mount Everest. Then nowadays Mount Everest, there are many issues regarding climate change and like management of waste in the Everest region and many more issues. There is traffic jam in the Everest region, at that time. Every year, September and April is the peak season for the climbers to climb Mount Everest. And there will be some, casualties also. This year also, I think 14 climbers died in the after base camp. So this is symbolic picture how Mount Everest is facing pressure due to you know uh, more climbers due to increment in the numbers of climbers in the Mount Everest region. So I think I want to conclude my presentation here. It is a kind of formal as well as informal session. Uh, if there are some questions, I will take two questions.